to have the compostable.
Do you have to?
No, but like socially.
Is it that bad?
Yeah. People,
is it really that bad?
It is. People want it. When we opened the coffee shop, at some point during COVID, Rita had purchased a giant number of styrofoam cups.
Right.
We've gotten through the 20 ounce and the 12 ounce, but the 16 ounce, we still have probably 9 cases of styrofoam cups down there. And about once a week or somebody, people go, oh, styrofoam, like that's going to hurt the environment. So we have these compostable, communist paper made from leaves and twigs. And all we're just going to save, we're going to save the earth. We're going to save the environment. So we're trying to be conscious of that and what people want.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a pain in the butt.
Like the straws.
Yes. Now we have straws that don't have a wrapper and they're paper straws, but there's that straw that you suck on it and then it sticks to your lips and then it gets kind of soft like a wet noodle after about an hour.
Fuck those paper straws, dude. Seriously.
Sick of that stuff.
They're dumb.
Sick to death of it.
I'm always like, I have plastic straws here because I can't handle it.
You're a rebel, though.
I'm a rebel. Well, also show me the fucking one turtle that we have to worry about now, you know?
Yeah.
Like, the slowest animal, mammal, whatever it is on the planet. If I could go back in time and see it actually happen, like the turtle swimming, and then slowly the plastic going into its nose, and now we're like, fuck, now everything's heavy paper.
I wonder, what frustrates me is, who's dumping garbage in the ocean? Why don't we go get those people?
Yeah.
Why are we're cleaning up the ocean and nobody is saying, what giant corporation is dumping all their garbage in the ocean? It's too much.
Well, I mean, I'm sure we're doing our own part here in the United States, but like,
yes.
I watched this documentary about fast fashion. And like the jeans. Predominantly it was jeans because of the chemicals that goes in the dyeing jeans and shit like that, and these rivers, and like, I'm not going to have the country name right, so I'm not going to say it, but like, just spilling all this shit into the rivers and streams, and it's all poison. And
I know.
You know, when you see like a commercial on TV for, you know, like feeding these third world countries or whatever, and the people there are wearing like these Nike t-shirts and shit because it's just our discard that finds its way over there, and that's what they're wearing because there's so much of it. It's hard to be a conscious shopper, you know, when you're consuming because of price. Like my wife and I are always like, well, let's try to buy, well, I'm wearing this like synthetic huck fishing shirt right now, but we try to buy things that are going to last, but fuck, it costs so much money. And when you got an 8-year-old at home, that's like, we're getting some shorts from Target.
I know. You have to. Or you've got American workers who, I mean, I think people should be paid a livable wage, but you've got...
This episode is brought to you by Brandon Ball, broker owner of Dwelling Realty, Keller Williams, Northern Michigan. Are you looking to sell your home? Then look no further. When you list your home with Brandon Ball, you'll get a trusted advisor who will guide you through the entire selling process. With extensive knowledge of the local market, he'll help price your home competitively to attract the right buyers. And with proven marketed strategies, your home will be seen by the most qualified of buyers. With 17 years in the business, you'll have someone experienced who's on your side. Contact Brandon today to get started selling your home. 231-690-4981. That's 231-690-4981. Or Brandon at dwellingrealty.com. This episode is brought to you by The Outsider of Manistee. We're showcasing their family tavern, their beer garden, and their arcade. Their large outdoor patio. This place is really awesome. It's very focused on family, getting people outside, getting them to tour the city of Manistee, showcasing our social district with their newly added indoor bar, which is awesome. They have 6 drafts, over 100 canned beers and canned cocktails to choose from on the menu. This is a really awesome place for the family. You got to mess the kids, fill their pockets full of quarters, let them have at those pinball machines, mom, dad. enjoy a nice cold draft beer or a canned cocktail. Get yourself something to eat, feed the family, feed the kids, wake up that liver a little bit, and then go enjoy downtown Manistee. These guys are located at 457 River Street. You can find them on outsidermanistee.com. Call them at 231-299-1235 or order for pickup and delivery at orderoutsider.com. Check this place out. You won't regret it. This episode is brought to you by Just Clean, Manistee's premier car wash located at 146 Cleveland Street or just north of the US 31 bridge. Choose their ultimate car wash, folks. That's what I always do because I can't stand my truck being dirty. And the ultimate car wash is the best. It includes a triple foam conditioner, ceramic coating plus wax, and a 60-second heated blow dry. Get in, get out, get looking fly, get the dirt and dust and grime off your vehicle. Choose Just Clean Car Wash of Manistee. This episode is brought to you by the Ramsdale Regional Center for the Arts. You can find them online at www.ramsdaletheater.org, or you can reach them by phone at 231-398-9770. So check the website for the ticketing information. That's www.ramsdaletheater.org.
When you have to pay workers $22 an hour and full benefits to make something really great quality, then it's just you're priced out of it. I have a couple of Carhartt shirts that are like this really nice canvas fabric. They're $165, and they're nice quality. The stitching's really great. They wash really great. They look good, but it's like it's $165. It sucks.
It's wild.
And then the profits from the corporations keep going up. And then they raise our gas prices. And then the oil companies have record profits. And I think the whole thing I'm frustrated. I think I could run for public office. I think I could do a good job of it. But now the scrutiny that you're under and the criticism, and they want to know every crime you've ever committed and every time you've taken drugs or smoked pot or you were on social assistance or you got a DUI or you have an ex-girlfriend who has an axe to grind. And then, I don't know what the answer is. And then I get frustrated because I say, what we keep doing is, well, gas prices are up again. Well, inflation, thanks to Biden. And we all do this like, well, I guess gas prices are going up again. But I do the same thing.
Right.
And so collectively, if we all said together, let's make some real changes so that people have food to eat and a park to play in, and we can be respectful and kind to each other. But even our political discourse, which was founded in statesmanship, was founded in diplomacy, was founded in assuming positive intent and honoring what your opponent thought and coming to some kind and gracious agreement about how we can disagree, but let's fix it anyway, has deteriorated into name-calling and criticizing somebody's eyelashes and talking about somebody's kids, and the world's watching that stuff.
Yeah, did you see that fucking... Are you talking about, like... Yeah. Did you see that shit with, like... What's her name from the Bronx?
Yeah.
AOC and Marjorie Taylor.
Yes, I did. I saw a couple
going
of
off
clips from it. And she's criticizing her eyelashes.
Dude, it was like I was watching some kind of, like, high school... bunch of catty shit that got out of control. And not to say that the guys don't do it either, because they do, but that was wild to me.
But the world is watching because we are a beacon in a way for maybe how to do it better and more organized and more peaceful than everybody else. Kids are watching that stuff. And what concerns me is there's already people angry. There's already people who feel disenfranchised. There's already people who feel like their voices aren't heard. So when they see that exchange, it just increases anger. It just makes people angrier and angrier and angrier. And at least, I think at that level we should have some decorum and some politeness. But it's almost gone away now. There isn't any polite discourse. There isn't any seeking to understand, and you and I disagree completely on everything, but we represent these people, and let's find the best way forward without criticizing somebody's weight or eyelashes or accent. I'm worried.
I am.
I'm worried about what that means for us.
Right.
What's next? Like, where do we go from here? Are we Afghanistan, where they're fist fighting in their Senate and they're assassinating each other? I mean, it's that's what worries me about that team mentality, where if my kid breaks your kid's arm and we're on opposite teams and that's how we win, fine with it. If our side does it and somebody criticizes us, no matter what happened, we're going to stand up and we're going to defend them and we're going to be angry and we're going to scream at the ref. But if the other team does that to our kid, we're outraged by it. It's almost deteriorated into, like, if I love Trump and you love Biden, I'm angry that you won't admit Biden might have mental health deficiencies or dementia.
Right.
And I'm mad that you will tolerate that.
Right.
That's what I'm mad at. You're mad that I will tolerate all the bad things about Trump.
Right.
So now we're in a fight about what we're willing to tolerate. I don't know. I just keep waiting for someone to stand up and say, knock it off. We're going to make sacrifices. No to that. And you shut up. No. We're moving ahead this way. We're going to do it like that. So I worry about where the adults are and where does this lead us. And now I see a poll where they're tied 50-50 again. And I think, what's going to happen if officially or legally Trump loses again? Because people are angry on both sides. And
either way, dude. Either way.
I don't know.
Whoever wins, somebody, there's going to be a segment of people that are going to lose their fucking minds. And it's like, I've never, I'm 45, so I've been through a few voting cycles. But I remember as a kid, there was this, kind of a statesman, with respect to the president.
Yes.
And nobody said, hey, who are you voting for, Doug? Because we need to figure out if we're going to be friends or not.
It didn't matter. It was polite, and it was a question you didn't ask. You don't ask someone what their salary is. You don't ask them what church they go to. You don't ask if they believe in Christ or not. And you don't talk about politics. Like, it's just contentious and it's dangerous. And now the discourse is, we're calling each other names. I mean, what's next? Guns? Like, someone's going to bring a gun to the Senate floor and they're going to shoot each other, or they're going to assassinate each other. And man,
I mean, there's always been to a certain extent, a certain volume of political discourse. But,
yes.
But you're right. It's the way that it is now.
The next step is going to be physical violence. And if that happens, I mean, God forbid one of these leaders gets assassinated. I don't know what's next.
Well, my wife and I were talking about the climate, this political and the protest climate we're in, this political climate that we're in, and the comparisons to like the 60s. And how bad is it now compared to then? Because the kids today, and I sound so old when I say the kids today, they don't know. But like in the 60s, we went from one assassination to another, dude. I mean, and it was wild.
We sure did.
Kent State, and
we sure did.
The
Martin Luther King and the Kennedys.
Yeah. Like, lived through that. Malcolm X. I mean, you want to talk about like social divides too.
Yeah, I'm afraid that that's what's going to be next, because that's all that's left. Screaming and screaming and screaming, and now we're criticizing people's weight and their physical appearance and their kids, and I'm worried because, like I said, less intelligent, more emotional people who don't understand the complexities of how it all works and how hard it is to find compromise are just going to get angrier and angrier and angrier and angrier. And we see it in social media, and we see it in the way that we treat each other, and we see it in our leaders, we see it in our schools. And I always wanted to be a teacher. I really felt like that was my vocation in life. And my life took me on a different path. But I can even comprehend what teachers go through today.
When I was nuts.
When I was in school, if my teacher called my dad and said, Douglas has insert crime here.
Yeah.
My dad would have beat my ass. He wouldn't have asked, well, what color is the teacher?
Yeah.
What are her political aspirations and beliefs?
Yeah.
Should she have said that to you? Is she bullying you? What's her education? How does she treat the black kids in school? How does she treat the girls? Is she singling you out? And that's what we do now. He wouldn't have even asked. There would have been no vocal dialogue between him and me. He would have beat my ass and said, if you ever embarrass me again, I'm going to rip your goddamn arm off. It's just so we're clear. So, but there's something about, my parents had 7 of us. I'm third of 7. And we are all homeowners. We are all hard workers. We all contribute to society in a positive way. And maybe there's something about, that's how we were raised back then. And that's how it was. And I think my parents loved me. I know they did. But it was, I grew up with a climate of, shut up. My parents did not say, we don't give a fuck about you. But the culture was, get up. Yeah. Stop crying. Knock it off. And no one cares. Go to work and fucking shut up. I remember my mom dropping me off at kindergarten. She had this big orange Blazer. And I'm sensitive, and I'm tender, and I'm always been a little precious. And I remember her dropping me off at kindergarten. And you know that glass with the metal wires on the inside? It's like toothpaste, and there's metal wires for a school. She would drop me off out front. My teacher, Mrs. Clendenin, would be standing on the curb. I am screaming and crying, don't want to go. My mom yanks me out of the car, peels me off her arm, hands her to Mrs. Clendenin, gets in her car and drives away. Mrs. Clendenin drags me into the classroom, closes the door, and I am like this at the windowsill, screaming with steam on the window, watching my mom drive away. And I'll bet she drove up the street and cried a little in her car. Sure. But if my mom and dad hadn't done those things for me, I would be a 55-year-old, 750-pound basement dweller who can't take a shower. But they taught me that. They taught me that you do it anyway, and it's hard, and it's scary, and you stand up and put your shoulders back, and you make eye contact, and you have a lot of self-love and a lot of self-talk, and you believe you can do it, and you just fucking grind on. And I think that was really vital.
A friend of mine the other day, I was talking on the podcast, Jake, and he said, he and his wife like to provide a little microdosing of hardship in their kid every day. And I can't agree with that more. Similarly, on the same lines of what you were talking about, I have a story where, and I've told my kids this, where neighborhood kids and I got together. I was the youngest of the neighborhood kids, and because that's what you did when you were younger. You went outside and you played with the neighborhood kids.
All until you got dark.
Until it got dark. It was a hot summer day, and my mom filled up a bunch of water balloons, gave us a bunch of balloons to fill up in the outside spigot, and we were having a water balloon fight. And I was singled out. Like, we're going to get James. He's the smallest. We're going to get him first. And I remember hiding away underneath the kitchen window. My mom was doing dishes, and they're just pummeling. I'm on the ground, and I'm crying. I'm like, my mom's like, you want him to do this, so get up. And I don't look back at that as a time of I was just getting harassed, and these kids don't like me or whatever. It's just part of growing up.
I tell my kids, I have 4 that are 30. I don't know. We made 4.5 children in 4 years, so they're 30, 28, 27, 26, 25. Something I will never remember that. And I teach them, like, you got to go out and you have to get it for yourself. And life's going to be hard. And when you get out into the real world, do you think your boss is going to give a fuck about how you feel today? Or whether you're tired or whether you aren't? And when you are more, when you can prove to your supervisor that you're reliable and you're intelligent and you're talented and you're capable and you'll show up and you've got his back, you get promoted and you make more money. And then you have access to a wider group of people who see your talents, and then you get promoted and you move up. And it's terrifying. It's terrifying. I mean, I worked at Microsoft for a long time and at Apple for a long time. And I had access to leaders in both of those organizations that would look at you, and you had 4.5 minutes to give them your speech or to ask them a question. And those people do not tolerate mediocrity in any form. And I call it a little sparkle. Like, I'll sparkle on people, and I'm a little charming, and I have a little twinkle in my eye, and I can lay it on a little thick if I have to. And one time, a dude at Microsoft said, you know what, you want to wow me, and I like that, but I want you to wow me with substance. Like, turn off the smile and the charm. Like, what's really going on in here? Like, talk to me like an adult, like a leader. And it was like, oh. So I sat in rooms with leaders and listened to them and did presentations and traveled and taught sales training and floor leadership and was an HR business partner and did a lot of people work. But those people are scary. When you get up into the higher echelons of those corporations, those people are intense and they can sense the bullshit.
Yeah, they can see it.
Instantly.
See it and hear it.
Instantly. You need to have a little bit of charm and a little sparkle, but it's hard. It's hard. You walk into a new place, it's scary. I started being a server at the Glenwood restaurant in Onekama. I did 4 days of training. Tonight, I'm taking my own tables, and I am terrified that I'm going to make a mistake or not do it right. I'm sitting outside in my garden this morning, smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee, going over the menu and anticipating what people are going to want. But that's what you do when you want to be successful at something. You don't show up in a schlubby whatever and stand there and wait for someone to give it to you. Like, you have to do it for yourself. So I'm continually doing things that terrify me because I'm interested in that journey for me about what I can do and what I can tolerate. And be scared. Fine. Just get the fucking script right and do it right and make eye contact and, give beautiful service. So it's hard. It's just fucking hard. And it's always going to be. And no one gives a fuck about you. So you've got to make it for yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
The ones that love you do.
Yes.
But like most people don't.
No.
They're
not your boss. No. They want it done correctly and they want you to show up on time. And so, yeah, I'm a little worried. And I tell my kids, like, don't be an idiot.
So one of the conversations that we have, because I agree with you, don't be an idiot, but I think there's a little bit of that, like, we've got to pull that me shit out of it and, try to show, like I try to tell those around me that if you really want to be successful, if you really want to achieve whatever these goals that you want in life, if you put forth the effort, I'm telling you, Doug, right now, this generation that's around us, let's take like the 16-year-olds right now to like the 22-year-olds. If this category right here goes out and like really, really works, there's going to be some fucking achievements that are going to happen quick for them because there's a shitload of kids today. I'm an old man of kids today. There's a shitload of them that don't want to do anything. And it's hard to get them to move the needle. It
feels like those were the kids who were told, your feelings matter.
Yeah.
You're important. How are you feeling today? It used to be when I walked in and said, good morning, how are you? You did the polite thing and you said, I'm great. How are you today? And I said, I'm fine. Thanks for asking. And then we went our separate ways. Now I greet people and I say, how are you today? How's it going? Well, I'm a little tired today. And it used to be our defects is not the kind word, so I'm going to use that for myself. It used to be my defects, I hid those. I didn't tell you that I am naturally very introverted, but I've learned to be extroverted in public. I'm not going to tell you that I have a headache or that I'm sick or that I struggle with social anxiety or sometimes I'm really lonely and sad and depressed. We didn't say those things out loud. And now we're saying them out loud, and I think the pendulum has swung a little too far in the opposite direction. But we're now competing with each other about our maladies and what's hard for us. And you say, I have social anxiety. And I say, well, I have depression and social anxiety. And I'm on medication for it. And you say, well, I also have schizophrenia. And I say, well, I know, but I suffer from really bad headaches and this tooth. And we're competing about broadcasting what our weaknesses is not the right word. But what's hard for us. And it's like, why? We used to hide those things, and we do need to talk about mental health more. I agree. But it feels to me like it's that generation, and they were told, your feelings matter. No, how are you really feeling? And so they walk around broadcasting their feelings and how it's going, and it's like, to be completely honest with you, like, I don't know that I care. Because I can sit here and cry about a laundry list of things in my life that are scary and things that in my life that I'm sad about, and I have people and friends that I can do that with. But for the most part, like, we're in a competition with each other about who has it the worst, and it drives me nuts. I don't get it.
Yeah, total generational thing. I don't get it either. And there's been parts of me over the last few years that have tried to understand that, and try to figure out where that really came from, and to I think a large extent, it's not necessarily coming from the parents all the time.
I agree.
I think a lot of it's in institutions that are kind of putting that on kids.
I agree.
And they come home from those institutions with these fucking ideas in their head that, hey,
And then they see one kid who acts like that and maybe gets attention from the teacher. Yeah. We all want to be unique in our own way. We all want to stand out, and we all want to be special and known for something. But now it's who's got it worse, who's more sad, who's got more anxiety. And I think we need to talk about those things more, but it's a strange broadcasting and pride in all of your mental health issues. And, man.
Yeah.
I'll talk to my kids about what they want to talk about and if they're sad and stuff. But the truth is, like, I tell them all the time, the better decisions you make tomorrow, the more options you're going to have further down the road. If you want to steal cars, the jail guy is going to decide when and what you eat, and when and what you wear, and when you sleep. If you want to get an education or you want to excel at work and have a good reputation for yourself, you get to have a nice car. You get to decide you want to buy wine or not. You get to decide all of that. If you get stuck in credit card debt at 22 years old, you're screwed for the rest of your life. Then you have to declare bankruptcy. So it's that great decisions today leads to so many options tomorrow.
That's what I tell that's what we tell our kids. It's all about choices.
And I'm going to be 55 in August. And I know that it's hard for my kids to imagine 55. My mom's 80. I talked to her yesterday. She just turned 81, and my dad's 85. And my mom says, I feel like I'm 22 years old. How did I get to 81? And I tell my kids all the time, 55's coming. You may not think it is, but I'm telling you it is. So if you have some money saved and you have a reputation where people value you and they want you to be around and they'll help take care of you, all of those things are for your future. But I think it's hard for kids. A 30-year-old, my daughter doesn't ever think she'll be 55.
Yeah, and I try my absolute best not to have my kids resent me with the words that come out of my mouth. So I try to be very calculated in the things that I say, just because, I get it. you know, because
Yeah.
I remember knowing everything when I was their age.
I did too.
You know?
And she and I, my first wife, like, we were going to do it differently, and we were going to do it right, and we were going to be right on the edge of religion, but still be really cool. And we fucked up a lot of it. I was estranged. I have 2 daughters and 2 sons, and I've had my challenges with them over the years, and I was estranged from my 2 daughters for about 3 years. Shit went down, and there was some misunderstandings and a lot of things I should have done differently. I was I was stuck in feeling sorry for myself. And my line back to them when they would say, Dad, you did this, or you continued to do that, my line to them was, I was put in an impossible position, and you don't think I handled that enough, or handled that good enough. Because I was angry because I wanted some grace from them.
Yeah.
But what they wanted from me was to listen and to take accountability and to apologize and to commit to doing it differently going forward. And so I'm in a really much improved place with them, but it is fascinating. And Tristan has 3 girls that are 30, I'm going to get it wrong, 28 and 26 or something. So I consider them my daughters because I've known them for 15 years. So we have 7 between us, between 30 and 25. And watching those people blossom out of childhood into adulthood, who want to make adult decisions with their bodies, with tattoos and other God knows what, but also needing guidance and needing support, has been fascinating to watch. My son says, Dad, I work 2 jobs and I still don't have any money left over at the end of the month. And I said, honey, I've had jobs where put 4 zeros more than what you make, and I didn't have any money at the end of the month. Like, it's all relative and you spend it, but
Yeah.
helping them transition into being adults and saying, like, it's hard. It's hard, but stay positive and love you. Talk to you next week. They're good people, though. They really are. We're lucky.
Yeah, we are lucky. We're very lucky. And, you know, I'm having adult conversations with my older 2. My daughter just turned 19. My son's going to be 21 in a couple of months. I got an 8-year-old at home. So my mistakes made with the older 2, I won't make with the younger one. But it's always interesting to, because I have this gap, so I have this like wealth of knowledge that I can now use here. And sometimes I feel guilty because of what I can do with the younger one that I didn't do with the older 2.
I know.
You know, so I'm having I had a conversation with my daughter the other night because she was telling us something that she was considering doing, and I gave her my opinion unsolicited, and it wasn't a positive opinion. And but she understood where I was coming from, I think. But the next day, I could not wait to see her and be like, "Hey, listen, you're 19 years old. You know what? I didn't like that shit when my dad did it to me, so I'm not gonna do it to you. I'm gonna support you, and we'll move on from this. But if you want my opinion, if you want my thoughts on something, ask for them. If not, just know that I'll be here when you
It's almost advancing and evolving into being a peer of theirs and a support. And what's funny, when I met Tristan, I never wanted to be a step parent. I thought that's a choice I'm never going to make in my entire life. And when she and I met and we kind of started dating, and then I thought this could be something serious, I said to her, I never want to meet your kids, and I never want you to meet mine. Let's do this thing that we do. I'll parent my kids, you'll parent your kids, and let's not mesh the 2 together. Of course, that didn't happen.
How did you take that statement, though, when you said that?
Well, she liked it. I think she agreed. I never wanted to get married again. I wanted to have fun and be with different people and do different things, but did not want to. The first round was not a pleasant one.
Sure.
And we had tiny little kids, and it was bad. It was really bad. And I just didn't want to put myself in that position again. And that I'm not going to take on a woman who's got kids. Like, I've got these 4. that I'm doing alone most of the time with a contentious relationship with their mother, stressful work, really hard schedule, a lot of work, and these little kids. And I thought, I just wouldn't make that choice again. And then we met, and she fell in love with me, and she convinced me to, I'm teasing. And, yeah, so what I'm saying is they're three really beautiful girls, but they have a father, and he's rad.
Is he?
He loves them and supports them. They've had their issues like every family, and Tristan's had her issues like every ex-husband and ex-wife. But what I've seen him do now with his adult girls, like he's very impressive, very, very impressive, and very warm and kind to me. And we'll shake hands and smile at each other and say hi. But I'm a peer to them. I'm a support if they want to call me. I'm happy to help. I love to see them, give them a hug when they come by, but I'm a friend, I'm a peer, I'm a confidant if they want it. I'm happy to support in any way that I can, but I don't parent them. And Tristan and I have we have a different parenting techniques.
Sure.
And there are decisions that she makes that I would not make with my kids. I'm a little harder on mine. I'm a little more direct. I tolerate a little less bitching and whining. I want to get to the point, and I want them to be strong, brave people so that when I'm gone, they can go to work every day and manage their lives. And she is a beautiful mother, and her girls love her, but she just has a different parenting technique from me. So when they say something to her, or she says something to them, or there's some interaction that I would handle differently, I do this.
Yeah. Yep.
And she does the same thing for me. And if I say to her, hey, Eve is my oldest daughter. Eve called me, here's the situation. Can I run it by you? Can I get your opinion? She'll give it. And she does the exact same thing with me. But for the most part, she gets to do that with them. And I've got my kids, and that has worked for us a lot. Like, that's been really nice. And I love the relationship I have with them. But man, watching these 7 kids transition into adulthood with social media and every image you can possibly imagine at your fingertips, and drugs and people and influences and peer pressure and all that stuff is, I mean, I don't know if this is appropriate to say, and you can cut it out.
I don't cut anything out.
If I wanted to see naked tits.
Yeah.
And I was a 12-year-old boy, I had to go to, there was a drugstore up the street that had Playboy magazines in their bathroom on the toilet. And then my dad's friend, I'm not going to say his name, was subscribed to Playboy magazine. And he had 10,000 issues of Playboy magazine. That was it.
Yeah, dude.
That was it.
Yep.
That was it. There was no videos. That was it. And so you're curious.
You have to work for it.
Yeah.
You have to track it down.
You're thinking about it, and it's like so much mystery about, like, what do they look like, and how does it feel, and what does it mean, and when do you do it, and oh my God, what are those? And
our parents weren't telling us.
No. So much mystery. And now you've got anything on earth you could possibly want at your fingertips on the phone. And even if you gave your daughter a phone, because when you need to call her, you need to have access to her, or you want to see her location, you can put any parental block on that phone you want. But that's not going to stop her friend from going, oh my God, look at Debbie, look what she did last night on her phone.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God. I tried to desensitize. Growing up, we were very religious Mormon.
Holy shit, talk about that.
Yeah, I am.
Is that Joseph Smith? Is that his
name?
Yeah,
I am. I was just talking to my dad yesterday, because Chester Loveland was one of Joseph Smith's bodyguards in Nauvoo, Illinois, and he joined the church in 1823 on my mom's side. So I think that makes me 7th generation member of the church.
Wow.
Like, My mother's family founded Brigham City, Utah, and there's streets there and cities named after my family members.
No shit.
So it's doctrine that you believe in, but culturally, it's embedded. So it's not a choice for me that I make any longer to attend church. But it was a lovely growing up. It was a lot of loving people and a really positive experience. As I got older and I started to think for myself, the church is not a decision that I make for me today. I still have a lot of respect for it, but the history, I'm so touched by it. Like, they left Nauvoo, Illinois in covered wagons, and they dragged their shit across the prairie, and kids died.
Yeah.
And wives died. And this guy was fucking that lady, and they were fighting, and there was a gun, and what do you eat? You have to go out and kill what you have to eat every day. So I channel those people sometimes in my hard moments, and I think, my people have been through worse than this. Like, your scary things today are, don't be an idiot on the podcast, and don't fuck it up tonight at the Glenwood. Like, those are my trials today.
Yeah.
And I think my people have been through worse than this. And I think I said this to you the other day, but I have it better than 8 billion people on the face of this earth. I'm not worried about the village leader in the village across the way coming over and killing my family tonight. We've got air conditioning, and I can buy pepperoni in tiny bits, thick, thin, spicy, jalapeno, big, little, a roll of it in a pouch that seals.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So I think sometimes having that perspective helps. But it was a lovely growing up, but tight in expectations. And we never talked about sex. We never talked about what your body does when you grow and what stuff does and how active it gets. And so I tried, maybe I took it too far, but I tried with my kids to just say the words out loud. Like, if I remember, my kids will say to you that at dinner I would say penis in vagina feels good. But I was being a little funny. But my dad never, I remember telling my boys about the proper care and management of a penis. Here's what it does. Here's how it happens. It's a wild and wonderful mystery. It does this. You won't know why. You'll feel like this. This is how you use it. Other gory details. My dad never talked about that stuff with me. And when puberty hits and the sledgehammer of male sexuality strikes you in the side of the head, and I didn't understand it, and I didn't know how it works, I felt guilty. I thought God didn't love me. I was nervous about it. One of the mistakes I think, and I only have the male experience. I don't have the female experience. But I wonder if we did a better job of teaching women and girls, and I guess some gay men, about male sexuality, how it works, what men struggle with, what happens when all the blood leaves here and goes down there, what that mindset feels like. I think maybe we could understand it more. Like, don't we want rape to be extinct in our generation? Don't we want sexual assault to be extinct in our generation? But I think these boys, I think we just don't have an appreciation for what it means and how powerful it is. And I also think, conversely, for women, I think men have no concept of female sexuality and how it works and what they want and how you do it right and how you're respectful as a man. And
to bring it back to what you were talking about at the beginning, the shit that's on the phone.
I know.
If that is what we're teaching our young men today, if that's what they're seeing, if that's what they think women want to be treated like, that's a huge fucking problem.
I know. And how your dick does not have to be that big. That's why this guy is on that video. Dicks aren't that big. They're not. Your body's fine. Whatever's happened. You don't have to make this face and make that sound, and she doesn't have to look like this and make that face. And it's not even real.
Right.
It's not even real. It's bodies out of proportion. It's fake screaming and moaning. And I fumbled through it with my first wife. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. And we made 4 children in 4.5 years, 3 of them on birth control. The 4th one, I love him. If he wasn't literally a physical clone of me, I would think it wasn't my kid, because I had a vasectomy in June of 98, maybe August of 98. He was born June of 99. So I went to the doctor and I said, we're pregnant, but I had a vasectomy. And he said, well, how long did you wait? And I said, you told me 25 ejaculations. And he said, or I think 90 days. And I said, 25 ejaculations is...
It's like a week.
Thank you. I didn't want to say it.
It's like a week.
We had a hard relationship, she and I, but we were kind of moving on. We were going to no more babies. She was working out, and we were going to do it. And she's laying in bed, and she goes, my pants are fitting really tight again. She said, I think I'm going to be pregnant, or I am pregnant. And I thought, I had a vasectomy. Like, there's no way it can't happen. And she took the test. And I love him, and he is a miracle, but we cried. We cried. We brought him home. Eve was 4.5. Grace was 3. Jackson was 3. Grace was 17 months and a newborn. Not a penny. We would turn our gas off in the summer and take cold showers. Like, not a penny. And my parents did not help, and her parents did not help. And I was just talking to my dad, and I'm talking about being a fully formed adult. Probably happened 6 years ago. And my dad said probably the same. About 50 years old, my dad was a fully formed adult. And I had little kids that I was raising, and he did too. And he made some mistakes with us, but when I think about those times then, I didn't know my dad was scared of things. I didn't know my dad was worried. I didn't know my dad maybe lusted after something else, or I didn't know my dad liked or didn't like his life, or had anxiety or depression or whatever. I just saw him as just a guy who can do anything. He can play any musical instrument. He writes beautifully. Our car can break down on the side of the road outside Las Vegas in the desert. And if he's got a 2-liter bottle of Coke and a coat hanger, he can fix the car. And he can fix a dishwasher, and he can open up a lawnmower and know how it works. And it's like, what an amazing, talented person. But I didn't see the human. I just saw this guy. Why doesn't he get it right? Why doesn't he understand me? And he had his own complexities, and he had his own challenges. And he's, are we talking about the right stuff?
Yeah, man.
Okay, you'll stop me if it's stupid. He grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and they moved to Pasadena, California. I think he was 8 or 9 years old. So he grew up playing ice hockey. So he got my older brother Jack, and my younger brother Corey, and me started playing ice hockey in Pasadena in an ice rink there. And my brothers are masculine, the right kind of men in all ways. They hunt, they fish, they love sports, they love cars, they can fix stuff. They're men in the right kind of way. And then I come along, and I'm like a praying mantis born into a family of grizzly bears. And while this male body is right for me, and I identify as a straight man, most of my passions are on the female spectrum side. I love to bake. I love opera. I love arts and crafts. I remember growing up in school, at recess, the boys went and played whatever you got hurt and dirty.
Yeah.
And fell down and scraped your knee and sweated. And the girls did jump rope, handball. They'd sit and visit. Yeah. And I wanted to go do what the girls were doing. So We have pictures of me. My dad's got me dressed all hockey, head to toe, with a stick and a helmet in a hockey net that we had in our backyard. And the look on my face is, so he didn't make me do it. Same thing with baseball. And it was just like, so I think at that point, he didn't know what to do. And
today they would just say that you're gay and we need to dress you up like a girl.
Yes. Had no idea what to do with me, but I internalized that as, oh, I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at these men and these boys. So then I grew up in a locker room because my brothers played hockey and my brothers played sports, and I'm looking at men and boys as they're meant to be. And I'm thinking, what the fuck is wrong with me? I want to go home and bake cupcakes. I remember my mom telling me she was going to a baby shower. And I said, what's a baby shower? And she said, it's a place where women gather, they eat cake, and they open presents. And I thought, fuck me. That's for me. I want to go to the baby shower. And she just said, it's only for women. And it was like, so I started to experience that, and I didn't understand what my place was in the world, and how I internalized that was, I'm defective. Something's wrong with me. I've never been muscular. I've been tall and skinny. My entire life, I was 22 years old. I weighed 135 pounds.
Dude, you were thin.
And I remember I could close this on my bicep. And it was like, why is my body, like, I would look at these boys in the locker room and just men in general. And it was like, why? How did I get this body with a tiny, this scratchy, high, terrible voice and acne and braces? And so what I needed my dad to do was say, you're okay. I love you just like you are.
Yeah.
I'll bake cupcakes with you. Let's go to Michael's, even though that would kill my dad to walk into a Michael's. Let's go to Michael's and you can pick out some, whatever you'd like to do. I internalized it as I was defective. I was wrong. I didn't understand why I was seeing all of this, and I had zero interest in sports and didn't want to get my hands dirty and didn't want to go camping, and my dad made me be a Boy Scout, and it just wasn't a fit for me. And then I grew up and I realized my dad just didn't know what to do. So I wish I could go back to that 9-year-old Doug and say, what you offer, nobody has that. Nobody has your talents. Nobody can do what you can do. It's just in a different way. So it took a long time to realize, you know what, I'm kind of rad with what I can do and how I can interact with people and what I have to offer. And I'm just different. I'm just different from people. So it was a fascinating story. He would when he was young, was arrested for stealing cars and vandalizing stuff. And a judge looked at him and said, I wasn't there, but this is kind of the legend, is like, I'm going to give you a chance. Jerome is his name. I'm going to send you to the Eddie Lee Home for Boys in San Diego. And Miss Eddie Lee is going to whip your ass into shape. And if you can do that, I think you could be a success in life. So my dad went to live at the Eddie Lee Home for Boys in San Diego. Eddie Lee was a giant black woman. And he said she was very loving, but she did not hesitate to hit you over the head with a wooden spoon if you didn't do it right. And she kind of whipped him into shape, and then he put himself through law school, working in construction, did law school at night, did construction during the day. I remember he was a process server serving subpoenas, and that can be a little dangerous.
Yeah.
So we had a station wagon, and he'd put us all in the back of the station wagon with blankets, and we'd park in front of a house. My dad would walk up the driveway, come running back down the driveway. We thought it was a hoot and thought it was so funny. We were laughing, and I realized, like, my dad worked construction during the day, was a process server at night, did law school, and just ground it out. And when I think about him, I have so much admiration and pride for what he accomplished. But when we're kids, all we do is internalize it and think it's our fault and we're wrong and we're broken and defective and no one's going to love us. And I realize he really did love us. He just didn't know. His parents were raised in the Depression, and it was a hard childhood for him, and he just did the best he could. And we ended up a lot of privilege. I grew up in Sierra Madre, California, which is rich and white, a suburb of Los Angeles. We had a beautiful life, and he spoiled us with new cars and horses and whatever we wanted, cameras and trips, and that was lovely. The truth is, I'm not bragging because I'm telling you that makes me an even bigger idiot now, because I had no concept of where money comes from, how you take a trip, how you pay for it, what a car payment is, what are taxes, what's the IRS. No concept of it at all. And I have struggled in my life. I think I'm in an improved place. But when I worked at Apple and Microsoft, there were times when I made a lot of money, and she and I spent every penny of it. We ate out every day. We bought shit. We went on trips. We bought cars. We bought wine. We filled our house with beautiful furniture, because I thought that was going to make me something.
Yeah.
I really, really did. And when we decided to move to Manistee, we lived in Henderson, Nevada. And I feel like I'm talking too much. Is that all right?
I love it.
Okay. We decided to move to Manistee. And in that moment, it was COVID, and I looked around our house at all the shit we bought. We opened our house and had our neighbors come and please come and take stuff and buy stuff. And we filled the big semi-truck trailer full. It was so full, there were things we couldn't fit in it. The big one.
The semi.
The big one.
Doug, that's fucking wild.
And I shipped my cars, and then Tristan and her mom ended up driving, because I didn't want to do the driving. She brought the dogs. So the semi-truck arrives. We rented a house on 2nd Street, because we had a house deal that we thought we were going to buy on St. Mary's, and that fell through, so we rented a vacation rental for the winter of 2020. That truck pulled up, and we started unloading it. And we left a lot of stuff behind, and we're unloading. We had to take it all to the basement. We got a storage unit. And it's almost a gospel principle of buy a bunch of shit, and none of it's going to matter. It's going to collect dust. It's going to deteriorate. It's not what eternal happiness is about. It doesn't bring you any peace. And I'm watching us unload this truck. Most of the stuff was broken. I mean, the moving company was horrible. But it was like, why did we buy all of this? Why was this important? And I thought that made me somebody. Sitting in a restaurant with other wealthy people, and we were all dressed up, I liked that feeling. It felt like, okay, like these are my people. I like this. I like the way it makes Doug feel. I like watching Tristan watch me be able to do it. Like, I thought that really made me somebody. And that shit doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And what I've loved about living here is, first of all, I've got 40 people in my phone that if I slide off a snowy ditch at 5:30 in the morning, I can call and they'll come and get me. But it's simpler, and I don't feel like I have to compete with people. And I drive a 15-year-old Honda Accord, and I'm going to drive that car till the wheels fall off. I would love a $100,000 brand new pickup truck. Like, I would love a house with a pool and one of these cute cottages in town. But the truth is, like, downsizing and making it simpler feels so much better.
Yeah.
I had a pile of watches, like not expensive, like swatches and shit like that. And a pile of them in my walk-in closet in Henderson. All batteries dead. Didn't really want them anymore because they were white and red, and that was the style then.
Yep.
Tristan had 310 pair of sandals and bags, and like, why did we do that? Why did
it's
I
amazing
think that
how
was
clear
important?
you can feel when you start getting rid of some of that shit.
Gosh, dang it.
You know?
I even wore this watch today. It's not running, because the battery is dead, but I thought like it might look nice on the podcast. I didn't want to look like a piece of
maybe you
shit.
got some magnetic shit going on in your body that keeps draining the battery.
It wouldn't surprise me.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't think I've ever had a watch the battery just
Really?
dies. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure I have whatever would kill a battery inside my body.
There's something to that.
Maybe it's alcohol abuse.
Yeah, and like, well, actually, I take that back. When Betsy was pregnant, there was some weird thing going on, and I
Really?
had a different watch. This is the only watch I have now, but I had like a Seiko, pretty decent looking watch, and I had to get the battery changed in like every quarter.
Really?
Yeah, like, what's going on with this thing?
Crazy.
But we try our best to be as minimal as possible. It really helps. I have 2 pairs of jeans. I have a very select. If you watch any of my social media, I got the same shit on all the time because I just feel like if I'm going to wear a T-shirt, I only need a few of them.
When I see a dude at Meier at 5:30 in the afternoon, and he's got dirty work boots on and a dirty overalls, and you can tell he's just worked his ass off all day, and he went home and he got his 3 kids, and they're pushing the cart around and they're buying groceries, and he doesn't give a fuck what I think about his boots, or he doesn't give a fuck.
Yep.
Like, he's taking care of his family, and I see guys like that here, and it's there's like a stoic, masculine quietness and a toughness and a shut up, like grind it out and go to work and be good to your neighbor and be sweet to your family and just work and be quiet and no one cares and who cares what your car is. And that's so refreshing about this, and I don't feel like I don't have to compete with anybody. I don't have to say something that's not true because I don't want you to think that I'm a piece of shit and not successful or whatever. And God, it's nice. I do want to go to Chicago twice a year and eat at a table with a white tablecloth and a cocktail glass and nice service. I do like that. I like city stuff.
Yeah, do you miss it much?
I don't. I even go to, Tristan and I went to Grand Rapids a couple of times for her scans and her doctor's appointments. And the traffic there, I grew up in Los Angeles. I drove in Los Angeles traffic for 35 years. So I know what traffic is. But we were down there, and there's so many cars and people everywhere, and two lanes turning left, and we're 45th back of 2 lanes of people turning left and went to the Trader Joe's and
they're wild in Grand Rapids, and I feel like there was
crawling with people.
There was a survey not long ago, and Grand Rapids ranked in the top 10 in the country as worst place to drive.
And then we got on the freeway to come home at 5:30 on a Friday afternoon, I think it was. And there's a point there, I think the speed limit is 75, or is it 70? I think it's 75. It might be 80.
I think it's up to 80 now.
I think it's 80. And I'm a good driver, and I'm a safe driver, and I like to drive fast when it's safe. And I'm going 82, and people are on my inches, or they're zipping by me. And at one point, I pulled over and got a gas station. I said, I'm going to breathe for a second, and I'm going to get a Coke, because I don't ever want to go back there. We even go to Traverse City, and there's people everywhere. And
Traverse City's getting nuts. It's crowded.
Yeah, we went to New York because Tristan was at had an international beauty show convention. And it's 10 acres of vendors and classes and every hairdryer and curling iron and thing you can possibly think of. And I love New York. We've been, I think, 7 times together. And I grew up in Los Angeles, so New York for me is Sex and the City, the buildings, the food, the cabs, the honking, the food, the people, the art, I love all that stuff. I can walk all day and just look at stuff. So I know what I'm getting when we go. Yeah. But this time was lots of louder sirens, lots of car honking, dirtier than I remember it, just billions and billions of people everywhere. And you're asleep in the hotel room with the window shut, and there's traffic and people screaming and all kinds. And I know what I'm getting. But we flew into Detroit, and then we spent the night there and then drove up. It was like a Thursday. We got home about, I think, 4:30 in the afternoon. And I drove up to Meier, and I got stuff for dinner, and I came home, and I sat in my yard with my dogs, and I made a fire. And it was me and my dogs and the birds and the trees and the breeze, and it was like, wow. I just think it's paradise here.
It's hard to speed it up when you've slowed it down.
Wow, so hard. Yeah. It's the best thing you ever did was moving here. I love it. And I thought, I want to write some poetry. Maybe I'll take my camera out and photograph the lake. But definitely wanted to downsize and slow down. And then I work for Madeline and do interior design, and then she opened the coffee shop, and that got busy, and then Tristan opened her salon that same week. And I did all the decor for the Ramsdale annual fundraising gala. Worked on that for, almost every day for 3 months. And now I'm going to be a server at the Glenwood in Onekama, and we are busier than we've ever been. But I just love the work. I feel like I've got purpose at the coffee shop in the morning. I love interacting with people, and I'm edified by service. I really am. I love making people feel good, and but we provide nourishment. You come in, we nourish you, and you leave. Like, we're the best part of a lot of people's entire day.
Yeah,
and I really love that.
About that. Without naming names, I mean, I'm sure you have a number of characters and conversations every day that you either look forward to or don't look forward to.
Yes.
In being the kind of introverted extrovert that you can be. How does that play out for you?
I think it's a hoot. It's all kinds of different people. And I love interacting with regulars, because we've got a guy who comes in almost every morning, and he's getting a coffee for his wife. And he's maybe, I don't want to say the right age. He's in his 60s. But he's a northern Michigan man who's worked his whole life with a chew packet in his lip. And at first he was a little gruff, like just a little. I would say hello and here's your coffee and have a good day. And then one day I was sitting at my computer, and he walked in and he said, "What do you see there on your computer?" And I said, "I'm writing our schedule and I've got inventory to do." And he was like, "Oh, okay." It took about maybe 9 months. Now he comes in. He wants to tell me about the wood he chopped yesterday. He wants to tell me he's taking his wife into Traverse City for the doctor's appointment, but they should be back about 2, and then he's going to go up to the farm and chop the wood, and he wants to put a sign on our bulletin board about the wood for sale. And I think he looks forward to it. I really do. And I love that moment with people, because I honestly believe that time in the coffee shop is the best moment of a lot of people's entire day. Yes, we are nourishing them with food and coffee and beautiful homemade pastries and great stuff, but it's the interaction that people want. Do we need a spot? I think every cute downtown needs a coffee shop, but there needs to be those gathering places where you can walk in and see your neighbors, and you can walk in and see your friends, and you can have some social interaction, and it can be positive and friendly, and you can sit with friends and have coffee. And I think that's at the core of it. If we've got a place where we can gather and people feel good, and we make some money, great. But the purpose of it is to be a spot where people just feel welcome and they can come in. And you never know. You never know what someone's struggling with. You never know.
Because everybody's struggling with some shit.
Yeah, you never know that someone's going to walk outside and go cry in their car. So I love that opportunity, that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that aspect of, owning Manistee Beverage. But, so I got a pretty good mix down there. I'd have the people that were excited to come in, try something new, find something new. They were shopping for a birthday, an anniversary, a Christmas present. All that stuff was good shit. But then I had my fair amount of, this is like your 5th time in here today kind of stuff. And that really got to me. And then learning the habits. I mean, I drank alcohol, and probably too much. You know, I really enjoy good wine.
I do too.
And beer. So, I mean, I'm not
too.
trying to pass judgment, but like when the dependent drinkers would come into the shop, and you know, you start to get that. Yeah, I know what you're telling me, but I know it. You're just trying to make yourself feel like you're not, you know, and they're like, oh, grandma needs a little more today, or mom, my wife drank all my vodka, so I'm back, I got to get a little more, or, you know, things like that. Or when they come in and you know they probably shouldn't be driving, you know what I mean, or whatever. We had one gal, I haven't seen her in a long time. I think she probably passed away. Young.
Really?
Well, I will say, you know, again, so for age disclosure, I'm 45. She looked probably in her mid to late 40s, but she was probably in her 20s.
Oh, man.
And you just see the progression. She came in, and like all staff knew who she was. And you could just tell that she was going through some kind of liver disease.
Oh, God.
It was happening rapidly, and she would up her game to like half gallons of vodka. It was just vodka, and the cheapest vodka you could get your hands on. She came in one day, she was all bloated, her lips were really swollen, and I'm like, oh, man. I wanted to deny her it, but that would almost be worse for her.
I know.
You know, when you're at that point.
Yes.
So shit like that really got to me, and it was more than her. There was multiple people that I was like, man. I mean, I genuinely started caring for these people.
I know.
Like, jeez, not to bring this podcast down, you know.
It's rough. I mean,
but that kind of shit is rough because technically, I mean, I'm selling drugs. You know, at that point.
I know. I've had an interesting relationship with alcohol in my life because I grew up religious, so I didn't have alcohol until I was 35 years old.
And you guys don't drink caffeine either.
No.
Which is
no smoking, no drugs, like nothing. So I justify it by thinking that my liver's this big. And it's like, bring it on, bitch. I can handle whatever you can give to me because you didn't start drinking till you were 35. But I did.
Really?
Yeah.
So how did that break happen with the Mormon church and you? And then you go all like...
I was just talking to my brother about that because it happened to both of us at the same time. And I'm trying to... I asked him, what was the moment when it was on and then the switch turned off? And I think it got... My ex-wife was the first one. We call it fall away. My first wife was the first one of us to fall away from the church. She is gay now and is married and has a wife, which I'm fine with that. But if that's what she wants, I'm happy for her. I just want her to be kind to my kids. So she was the first one, and I was really scared, and I was scared for our eternal marriage. I was scared for my kids. What's this going to mean? Is God going to love us? Are we a family still? Am I going to lose my kids? Am I going to lose my family? So I got really scared, and I held on really, really tight. And she and I were attending therapy together as a couple. And the therapist's name was, I think her name was Sally Byer, and she was not religious, but I never felt like she was trying to talk us out of it. Yeah. I really feel like she was trying to support us through it and trying to help me see how my ex-wife was struggling and why that wasn't a bad thing. It was just her turn. It was just her way. It was her trial. It was just what she was going through. And I was angry and I was scared. And then it was, I think it was Proposition 22 in California, which was on the ballot, that would clarify that marriage is between one man and one woman. And from the pulpit in church, they wanted us to walk your street, knock on your neighbor's door, and say, we're Douglas and Sally Meier. We're your neighbors down the street. We'd like to ask you to consider voting yes, or I don't remember, whatever it was, voting yes on Proposition 22. It's going to preserve our families and protect us, and that's how we're going to vote, and we'd like to invite you to do the same. We're your neighbors, and God loves us. And I wish I could, what was the guy's name? He was a big, schlumpy, fat, sloppy guy at work, wore this really gross brown blazer, and he was just, I remember his name, but I don't know if I should say it. He was a part of the leadership of our ward at church, and he left a voicemail and said, hey, I'm just following up. Have you and your wife walked the street yet to proselytize and convince your neighbors, and told them about how passionate you are about voting yes on Proposition 22. So I ignored his call, and then he saw me at church, and he just wouldn't let it go. And then he called, and we were sitting eating dinner. We had this kitchen, it's a long story, but it's this really gross house. We had a kitchen where the sink was, all the under cabinets were gone. It was an absolute disaster. Wayne Decker called. It was the voicemail, or the answering machine came on. And my wife stood up and picked up the call and said, don't you fucking call us again. We're not doing this. It isn't right. The church from the pulpit should not be dictating our personal politics. Don't fucking call us again. And that moment, it was like, what is this?
Yeah.
What are we doing? Why am I giving 10% of my money? And then, I'll make the story really fast. You have to, in order to attend the temple, you have to have a temple recommend. And in order to be temple recommend worthy, you have to be living correctly, paying a full tithing, 10%, no drugs, no alcohol, no bad sexual stuff. What's funny is the sexual sin was worse. Like, leaders of the church told us that if you fornicate, which is sexual intercourse outside of the bonds of marriage, that sin is worse than murder.
Yeah, they want to lock that in.
Yeah. So, but in order to be temple recommend worthy, you have to go through 2 interviews. You have to meet with your bishop. He asks you all the questions, and you say yes. And then you meet with a higher up leader. You answer all the questions, and you say yes. And then they will give you temple recommend. You can go whenever you want. So my ex-wife and I were on the outs. But this was that moment where I was like really hanging on and really getting scared. And I got my temple recommend. But in her interview, I don't know exactly what she said, but she in some way indicated to him that I was mistreating her at home. I had angry moments. I did. She was difficult. I reacted in an angry way, but I wasn't physically abusive with her. I yelled sometimes, or a lot, and it was a very challenging situation. And our bishop, Harry Terrell, knocked on my front door. I opened the door, Cheerios, garb in our house because we had little kids, dirty laundry. I'm embarrassed because our house was gross because no one took care of it. I opened the door. He comes in, and this was a low point in my life. He comes in, and he says, I've had an interview with your wife, and she's indicated to me that there are some things in your relationship that aren't, he didn't say kosher. He didn't say your wife has accused you of physically beating her, but he said, I have some concerns about what's happening here and the way you treat your wife. I'm taking your temple recommend away from you because at this point I don't consider you temple recommend worthy. So I'm walking through our filthy house. I go to get my temple recommend. I hand it to this guy at a low point in my life. This man that I respect. I wanted him to like me. My parents are important people in the church. You've got to maintain all that level of doing it right and executing it on a high level and looking great. And doing all that stuff, and I handed him my temple recommend, and he turned around and he left, and I closed the door. And I think all the time, maybe once a week, about him in that moment. And if somebody had said, you guys are struggling right now.
That's what I was going to say.
Doug, you're a father of 4 little kids and you're struggling in your marriage. I'm married. I have my own struggles. I'm going to sit down here with you. Tell me what's hard. How can we help? Let's get some people from the church to come in and help clean up the house. My wife will come and help with laundry. You guys are overwhelmed. What's hurting right now? What do you need right now? I'm here for you. I'm your spiritual leader. I'm going to pray with you. I want you to know that Heavenly Father loves you, that you're saved under the redemptive blood of our Savior, Jesus Christ. But you're ours, and we're here for you. And we're not going to let you sink, and we're not going to let you drown, and we're not going to let you fail. So come on, buddy. Like, how can I help? What do you need? And he turned around and walked out the door. And I think in a moment of not choosing to be Christ-like, in a moment of not propping me up or saying something positive, he just turned around and walked out the door. And I thought, my brother was already going to leave the church. She was already on the edge of leaving it. I'm starting to think in my mind, how much more money will I have a month if I'm not giving 10% to the church? Our hardest days, the biggest fights that she and I would ever have, was getting ready for church on Sunday morning. Having to get 3 little kids ready. And it wasn't like we came home from church on Sunday, take Eve's shoes and put them on this shelf. Take her tights and we'll put them right here. Let's take her church dress off and we're going to hang it up. Take her barrettes out of her hair and we're going to put them right here on this thing. So next Sunday morning, when we're all racing and trying to get to church on time, her shoes and her tights are right here. Here's her barrette and here's her. But every Sunday morning, I say she, and I'm not saying it was 100% her responsibility, but we could never know where the shoes were, couldn't find tights, her dress wasn't clean. I want to say one more thing, and that is, when I project happiness and success upon other men, like when I see somebody like you, and I think, God damn it, that guy's got it all together. He's handsome, he's fit, he's got a cool truck, he's clearly got friends, and he's like a man in the right way. And then I would add to that, and I'll bet his wife's hair is dry at church, because my wife, we would get to church and her hair was always wet. She couldn't manage to get herself up and dressed and have hair dry at church. So that's the thing I add to it in my mind is, God, look at that guy. All of his kids have an $8 drink, and he's getting in that Denali Suburban. I bet his wife has dry hair at church every week. I bet he doesn't have a fucking care in the world. And I look at me like, how does that happen? Like, how did that guy get there? And I'm over here, like, struggling every single day. So that dry hair, Tristan's going to laugh at that, because that's something I say. As I look at a guy and I'm like, I'll bet his wife has fucking dry hair at church. It's just one of those things I'll never forget.
That's so good. That's so good. I don't think I've ever seen a lady at church with wet hair.
Yeah, well.
You know.
It's pretty, not wet, dripping wet, but like not done. Yeah. And she just couldn't manage
Pull her shit together.
She knew how important it was to me. I know that makes me sound like an asshole, and I don't mean it like that, but.
No, I think that's important in a marriage, that the two of you know what's important to the other. You know?
Even if you don't want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a give and take there for sure.
Even if it doesn't come naturally. Yeah. Even if you don't think it should be like that. Even if you don't understand it or have respect for it. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Sure does.
You know?
Absolutely.
And I think that, my older 2 kids are from a previous marriage. So, I mean, and getting a little bit older and finding somebody that kind of aligns with, everything that you've got going on, whether it's religion, politics, or whatever. We both kind of feel the same way about everything. That is immense, And It's hard. I mean, I was 24, turned 25 when I had just turned 25 when my son was born. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I was still a kid.
Mm-hmm. Not fully formed.
No, my frontal lobe was just barely pieced together.
Here we are, parents of these little kids.
And your job is to, keep them alive.
Yes.
Fucking just make sure they don't die. That's your job as a young parent. Make sure they don't die. Get them to the doctor on time.
Yep.
Don't die.
Yeah. I say all the time, you know what? They survived.
Yeah.
They're alive. They survived. I saved them from the church. And while I think the church does a lot of good, and it was a great growing up experience for me, there's a lot of love there. But one of my proudest accomplishments is I saved them from that. And hating their bodies, not understanding sexuality, and not being handed a piece of paper and said, this is what you believe now.
Yeah.
This is what we do. It's all groupthink. You're going to do it like we say. You're going to do it like we do. And you're going to give us 10% of all your money.
Yeah, that 10% shit is wild.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
Again, when in my late 20s, with these kids going to church, Catholic, my family's Roman Catholic, we don't really go to church anymore. I do have strong religious beliefs, but anyways, to talk about the 10%, because that's a whole nother podcast I can go off on all that shit, but I got a letter once from our priest, and again, this was 20-some years ago, so different priest than what we have today, but hey, Jim, your 10%'s a little light. We know how much money you make. Basically, was the genesis of the letter, and I looked at my ex, and I said, we're fucking done. Not going. Now they get nothing from me,
Yeah, I was angry at religion for a long time. I had an ex-girlfriend after I broke up with my ex-wife. She loved going to a non-denominational mega church. She loved the praying. She loved the singing. She was really edified by it. It boosted her morale and her attitude. She just really liked it. And I was a bitch to her and critical and mocked it. And I have so much respect and love for religious people. And if that gets you going, and that's a good thing in your life, I applaud it. And I think most religious people have positive intentions and want good for everybody. I think in any enterprise, there's the occasional psychopath. But I wish I could go back and just shut my fucking mouth and just let her do it. But I have a lot of respect. I love, I'm an art history student, so I love religious icons. I love Mary and Jesus together. I love Renaissance art, and I love churches, but I love Catholic churches. And I love the bloodier, the more guilt, the more gold, the more crosses, and the wrought iron, and the candles, and the altars. I love all that stuff. So maybe that has, I definitely have my opinion on organized religion, but if it works for somebody and you're edified by it, go for it. So I wish that I hadn't done that to her, because I was a bitch. But I had my own warped, defective personality and my perspective, and I think religion is great for people.
The teachings of most religions
completely
are be
agree.
A good person,
completely
be a good husband, be a good wife, be a good son, be a good daughter, give to the poor.
Yes.
All
be
that
a good
shit.
Neighbor.
Yeah. That kind of makes you just feel better.
Yes.
But it's all the other shit that gets lumped into the organization that when they start back to politics, when it starts pinning people against people, humans against humans,
Yeah, and we're Christians, and we're supposed to follow his example, and I think we get it wrong a lot of the time.
I think we do too. That's a good place to stop it. We got to do this again sometime.
I would love to.
We could talk a couple more hours.
I would love to.